All right, so I know what they always say. You're only as good as your last fight. And let's look at Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie for the perfect matchup for two guys who have had really bad last fights. Kron Gracie, Charles Jourdain. He, butt scooted against Charles the entire time and proved that jiu-jitsu in its purest form no longer belongs in UFC because the game has evolved. Now, look, jiu-jitsu is one of my favorite martial arts. Don't get me wrong, but I'm honest about its place in the UFC. And Charles Oliveira is how you do it right. Kron Gracie is how you do it wrong. Bryce Mitchell, great grappler. I like his style a little bit better because he's not butt scooting. He's trying to take you down wrestle style and then get you a twister from the top position. And then he's got okay hands. He does know how to strike to set up his stuff, but whoever gets the better striking is probably going to win this one. Because I don't know how their jiu-jitsu is going to match up. Because I remember when I watched Kron Gracie fight Alex Caceres, and that was his one brief shiny moment in the UFC. Used the striking to set up a takedown and then got the rear naked choke and got Alex Caceres out of there. Meanwhile, you have Bryce Mitchell, who's probably going to do something similar. And Bryce Mitchell has been training with Sean Strickland. He's been very open about that on social media. And I think that's good because if Bryce Mitchell had really deadly hands, especially like a grappler like Bryce mixed with what he's learned from hopefully Sean Strickland, it might be a Philly shell. It might not be. He might be learning those tips that Sean Strickland does where you hide your body language so they don't see it coming. If he could do that, I think he could beat Kron Gracie. But if he sleeps on it in any shape or form, doesn't take the training seriously, he might lose again. I'm not counting Kron Gracie out because when Kron Gracie actually brings the game correctly, he gets the job done. And Bryce has nothing to gain really from this fight and even more to lose. And the only reason I'm being this critical of Bryce Mitchell, I was critical about him taking that Josh Emmett fight on short notice. And I said if he sleeps on that striking at all and he gets caught, he is going to sleep. And it was a prophetic, guess. Because Emmett caught him in what is going to go down in history as probably one of the scariest scientific-wise knockouts in UFC history. I thought Bryce's life was over that night once I saw him twitching on the ground like that. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen with Kron Gracie most likely, but when Bryce Mitchell gets distracted with, talking about conspiracy theories and stuff like that, look, I got no problem with that. I like a rabbit hole as much as the next guy, but when you are in the UFC, you cannot get distracted by that too much. It's just like with what Colby Covington's coming back to. Is going to be too distracted by his career on the Kick streaming platform to be able to be hungry enough to fight anymore when he could be making money being an influencer. Same with Bryce Mitchell. Is he going to be more of a dairy farmer afterwards? Is he too dialed into other things? Because he has taken a year off, which is a good thing because you're going to need a year off after you get knocked out by Josh Emmett like that. But at the same time, he needed to have taken that year to expand upon his game and show that he's not just a one-trick pony. Because honestly, it's like I see his career going one of two ways, actually three ways. It's either going to sink, it's going to excel with what he's learned striking-wise from Sean Strickland, which he should have been doing a long time ago. To be honest, if he would have started this sooner, then I honestly guarantee you that this guy probably wouldn't have lost to Josh Emmett. I know that's a reach to say, but if he had really good striking, like Sean Strickland style striking, he would be able to weather the storm and take Emmett down most likely. But it didn't happen that way. He should have changed teams up a long time ago. I know that there's loyalty to one team, and that's all good and dandy. I mean, you got to, remember where your roots come from. But it's always this thing like, do you want to go to different gyms and learn different things that you might be able to expand upon and share with the community when you're training and everything? This is probably the best move Bryce Mitchell has done, which gets me optimistic, but it also leaves no room for excuses. Or it's just a super underwhelming fight that goes to decision. Whoever wins, it just doesn't seem like any of those guys are going to go anywhere. We don't know where this is going to go, but I'll tell you what, I want to see Bryce Mitchell win this one. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Kron Gracie get a redemption because Kron Gracie has made himself look bad in a completely different way with how he's handled his past few losses. So he needs redemption. Bryce Mitchell needs redemption. The question is, who is getting the redemption? Honestly, my heart, personally, I would like to see Bryce Mitchell succeed because he's been in the UFC a lot longer and he's made a name for himself. He's not coasting off of his last name like Kron is. No offense, Kron, but Gracie did have, the right to call themselves the pioneers of like grappling, especially in the jiu-jitsu realm, but those times have long since passed, and we don't want to see any sort of nepotism in the UFC. And you know what? For a while, Kron Gracie was getting work done at Alex Caceres, and leading up to the Cub Swanson fight, it looked like he had a bright future. But MMA and BJJ are a completely different game. So if Kron Gracie really wants to earn his spot and bring the Gracie glory back into the UFC, he's got to do it in a modern way where he's got jiu-jitsu aspects mixed with the current MMA. But Bryce Mitchell has no room for excuses with everything he's been training on. But that's what I got to say. I hope for the best for both guys. This is an odd matchup, but it makes sense because Bryce does not want to come back against heavy hitters twice in a row. Like I said, man, that Josh Emmett fight was scary. I don't want to see a repeat of that, but peace out. See you later.